Like most kids growing up, I was into several franchises. The first was Ghostbusters, then it was Turtles, and later Star Wars, which for most people has lasted all the way to present day. But out of the sci-fi action genre, there were 4 main franchises that were really popular with me and my friends: Terminator, RoboCop, Alien, and of course, Predator. They were the big 4. When you thought of them, you probably thought of them together. And that's because each pair had a crossover. Alien vs. Predator came first in 1990, and RoboCop vs. the Terminator in 92. Both crossovers had their fair share of comics and video games, especially comics. There was even a run where they all fought each other. Batman also went toe-to-toe with some of them, sparring off with both Alien and Predator. My favorite of the two was Batman vs. the Predator. Out of the big 4, Predator was the wild card. When 20th Century Fox released the film, they knew it would be popular, but no one knew it would be a hit with kids. Eventually, Predator got its own toy line. The franchise has 4 films to date, and with a new one in theaters now. We'll briefly go through each film in the series, unpack why the franchise is still going strong today, and I'll give my thoughts on the new film. But before we do that, let's take a look at some of the history first. First things first, if you're looking for that expose on online predators, this is not that video. Predator, as a concept, is pretty genius when you think about it. It takes a popular thing like monsters and makes them intelligent. They're athletic, extremely competitive, and they use advanced technology to hunt prey for sport, which is why some sports teams use them as their mascot. This right here is Claw from the Orlando Predators. As a kid, the design of the Predator always reminded me of Boba Fett. Both have a flat face mask, gauntlets, and a variety of hidden weapons on their suit. Just do a simple search on Etsy and you'll see a popular mashup of both characters called the Feditor. He's been ripped off for decades now, popping up in cartoons, TV shows, and of course, several B-movies trying to cash in on the character's popularity.
Private Larry Garino, Alfred Bray, dubbed Papa Doc.
On target, on target, on target.
Freakazoid had an episode that was clearly an homage to the character. And if that show reference was too obscure for you, then here's a shot of one of Michael Bay's Transformers. You can clearly see what they were going for there. But the biggest Predator ripoff, hands down, goes to Cyrax from Mortal Kombat Annihilation.
Cyrax.
He first appeared in the video games and had 2 other characters that looked just like him but wore different colors. He ripped off everything from the mask to the dreadlocks. He even has a self-destruct device on his suit, just like in the Predator. Spin-offs and fan films were also popular. One of them, called Batman Dead End, was one of the earliest fan films to get released online. It came out in 2003, and people are still talking about it today. To me, the design of the Predator is one of the coolest things about the entire franchise. The suit is built for both offense and defense. It comes complete with a shoulder cannon, weaponized wrist gauntlets, and a biohelmet that provides infrared, ultraviolet, thermal imaging, and night vision. He's also a walking Swiss Army knife. Again, like Boba Fett. And also like Fett, the Predator's helmet too has a targeting system. It operates the cannon. But what Boba Fett doesn't have is a cloaking device. For defense, the suit also comes equipped with a respirator in the mask and medical kit for healing his wounds. Armor aside, when the mask comes off, underneath is a monster's face. complete with mandibles and that creepy laugh. Which is him imitating a human laugh that he recorded from one of his victims. The mandibles were a design element that we can thank James Cameron for. He gave the idea to the late Stan Winston, who created the creature effects. People dress up as the Predator all the time at conventions. I've run into one just about every year at MegaCon, and they get better each time. This one I saw a few months ago, and it's the best one I've seen yet. I also have a few pieces of Predator gear myself from back in college. I purchased this mask along with the head and arms, hoping to make my own fan film eventually, but never got around to it. I guess you could say I was destined to use it for this video. The first film premiered in 1987 and is considered one of the best action movies ever made.
Payback time.
It's more than just an action movie, it's a hidden slasher flick. Which is essentially a movie with a body count. It follows the typical serial killer pattern, picking off one character at a time. And since the killer is an alien, it's also a science fiction film. It's several genres in one.
There's something in those trees.
Predator is an action movie in the same way that Alien is a science fiction film. It starts off like any traditional action movie, and then it takes a hard turn.
No estoy segura, no sé.
She says the jungle. It just came alive and took him.
La selva se lo llevó.
It's similar to From Dusk Till Dawn. Those characters have no idea they're in a vampire movie until about halfway in. Predator gives you that same twist. It's like Commando, but with a surprise. There's no standard film structure to it, it just descends. But don't get me wrong, it's definitely an action movie too. In just one sequence, the entire set of action found in a typical action movie explodes on screen in just a matter of minutes. Guns, explosions, people on fire, people falling on fire, it's all there. It's the most excessive and ridiculous display of guns and violence, and it's great. And some of the special effects were not easy to pull off. What's called Predator Vision wasn't just a filter that they slapped on in After Effects. In order to get that look, they had to use a thermographic camera.
Its blood was on the leaves.
If it bleeds, we can kill it.
Of course, the film also gives you some of Arnold's most famous lines.
Get to the chopper!
This was Arnold at the prime of his career, so he was the toughest of the tough, and the only guy that could make Arnold look small was Kevin Peter Hall, who played the Predator at over 7 feet tall. Fun fact, the original costume for the creature was a disaster. It looked completely different from the design we all know and love today. On set, the crew called it the Red Lobster. Of course, this was just the chroma key version of the suit that the actor wore to make the Predator look invisible. The background was green, so the opposite needed to be red. The actual suit looks like this, and the actor inside the suit was none other than Jean-Claude Van Damme, who had just landed on American soil and wanted to become a movie star. This would have been his first big film role, but the costume was so bad that it got cut. The only shot that made the final film was this one right here, where he drags the body into the woods. That's it. They had to call in the professionals to fix up the mess. And at the time, the best monster makers in the business was Stan Winston Studios.
Basically, what we're doing is making monsters. That's what we do, and we do it well.
These guys are responsible for 3 out of the big 4: Alien, the Terminator, and now the Predator. RoboCop was created by another studio.
Drop it!
They made a new red suit to fit the shape of the new creature, and you can see the original title of the film on the clapperboard right here. At first, the film was going to be called Hunter. Safe to say, I think we're all glad they changed that too. Predator 2 came out 3 years later, taking us from the jungle and into the city. Danny Glover, fresh off the Lethal Weapon franchise, plays a cop once again, and this Predator has a different set of armor. The mask this time around has a more slanted mouth, and he carries around a new weapon. He uses the medical kit again in this film, and it's one of my favorite scenes. To me, it shows just how intelligent and patient the Predators really are. The end scene is by far the best. It opens up not just the world of the Predator, but it kickstarts a cinematic universe by crossing over with the Alien franchise. People went nuts when they saw the alien skull on the trophy wall of the spaceship. These exact same Predators end up showing up later on in the franchise. The one that's handing Harrigan the gun is the Elder. There's a lot in that last scene that sets up the future of the franchise. After that, the rest is history. Once the AVP comics hit the store shelves in 1990, word quickly spread, and we started seeing it everywhere, from comic books to toys. But the one that got most of our money was the arcade game.
Select your claim. Predator.
To this day, Alien vs. Predator is still my favorite arcade beat-em-up. The graphics were ahead of their time, and the character designs were top-notch. You could even play as Dutch from the first film. As kids, we kept waiting for that inevitable crossover film that was teased in Predator 2, but we would end up having to wait 14 years to finally see it. Then, in 2004, Alien vs. Predator finally came out. But most people forgot it was coming. Alien vs. Predator was a lot of fun, and it had tons of action. Watching the fight scenes play out was cool, but that was about it. The coolest thing we did get was learning why the Predators started fighting the aliens and how Earth got the pyramids. The sequel, AVPR, was hard to watch. Literally. I mean, it's dark. Not in tone, it's physically dark. The one cool thing that it contributed to the franchise was the Predalien, a hybrid of the two species with the body of an alien and the mandibles and dreadlocks of a predator. The most important thing it contributed to the franchise is this shot right here. This is where we finally get to see their homeworld. In 2010, we got the film Predators. It was a soft reboot of the franchise and tried to capture the magic of the original. This time around, we have a group of trained killers, but unlike the original film, none of them know each other. And to make things even more interesting, they don't even know what planet they're on. The film shows us some new Predator designs and introduces us to the Super Predator, a hunter who's more advanced than any hunter we've seen yet, until now. 2018's The Predator is directed by Shane Black and tries to give us something we really haven't experienced yet in the Predator franchise. Comedy.
Alien.
And man, does it have a lot of it.
That's not a predator, that's a sports hunter.
Well, we took a vote. Predator's cooler, right?
I went with my friends to see the film for my birthday, and we had a lot of fun watching it. But it's a mess. The story is all over the place, and none of the characters even seem to be afraid of the Predator once it shows up. They just crack jokes. It's almost like it's a contest to see who's the funniest. When you compare it to the original film, you'll see a huge difference in tone. In the first film, you have a group of some of the toughest commandos you can find. They have all the reason in the world not to be afraid, but when the Predator starts hunting them, they're terrified.
I'm scared, Pancho.
You ain't afraid of no man.
There's something out there waiting for us. And it ain't no man. We're all gonna die.
But in the new film, none of the characters ever seem afraid. Even when the bigger Predator shows up, they joke about that too. You thought the Super Predator was big. Meet the Mega Predator. He's a predator hunter. The film has some great special effects, but overall it's confusing and completely random at times. Overall, I give the film a C. The film is a fun time if you want to laugh and just be entertained, but it fails just like the previous ones to capture the quality of the original. If you saw the film, what did you think? If you enjoyed watching this review, check out my Alien franchise review. I'll leave a link to that at the end. I hope you enjoyed the review. Leave your comments down below. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
Gonna tell Aunt Mary about Uncle John. He claimed he has a misery, but he having a lot of fun.